Good afternoon. Let's talk about these Warscrolls. Man, am I excited. In this video, we're going to compare and contrast and talk about the Tusk boss, the Hackas, the Hacken crew, right? The Maw-grunta Hacken crew. And we're going to talk about the Gougers. Those are kind of the three names that I'm going to call these guys, right? The Gougers, the Hacken crew, and the Tusk boss. Okay. First of all, let's look at their points before we get too excited on anything else, because the points matter a lot. So, the Tusk boss is 380 points. He's a leader, behemoth, and single. Cool. In fact, let's just take a little capture of this. Bloop. Very good. The Hacken crew is 270 points cheaper. So this is 110 points cheaper. Is a behemoth and is single. The Gougers are 180 points. Also a behemoth, but can be battle line if your general is a Maw-grunta. Okay, so if your general is a Maw-grunta, it has to be a Tusk boss, because that's the only leader that's in this it's the only leader that has a Maw-grunta on it. So unfortunately, at this point, we can't actually discuss how good a Maw-grunta is going to be as a general, because sorry, I'm just going to close my office door. Because we don't know the enhancements that are available to a Maw-grunta. In the Orc War Clans book, all of the command traits are all linked to either a Mega Boss or a Weird Knob Shaman. No, that's not right. They're linked to either a Mega Boss or, yeah, a Wizard. So not a Weird Knob Shaman, but I knew that when I said that, that wasn't right. So in the Orc War Clans book, there are no command traits and there are no artifacts of power that can be taken by non-Mega Bosses for artifacts of power. And even Wizards don't have any artifacts of power that they can take in the Ironjawz book. So when this new Path to Glory book or whatever it is, Champions of whatever it is, the new, campaign book or whatever it is that's coming out, Dawnbringer's book 2, I think, when it comes out, it's going to have more rules for the Ironjawz. So we have to wait until then until we get the full picture. So we'll have to keep that in mind. I assume there's going to be something good, because when new things come out, there's always something good, right? But we'll sort of have to keep that in mind, is that we're missing what it means to have a Maw-grunta as a general. We don't really know what that means. I think, to be honest, I think it's going to be awesome, because there's no command traits that I think are really good for Ironjawz, right? The one that, that I use most often is Master of Magic, so if you add a bunch of command traits to the Ironjawz, I think it's only going to be good. I think it'll only be a positive thing. So I have a feeling that it'll work out well. So let's compare and contrast these three. Okay, so let's start with the Tusk boss. The Tusk boss is our biggest, most expensive model, right? So we're sitting at 380 points. This is 70 points cheaper than a Maw-grunta, right? So we're kind of thinking in that realm. So the move characteristic starts at 9, 14 wounds, 3-up save, which is great. Thankfully, it had to be a 3-up save, and 8 bravery. That bravery is really important because it means that we can actually use heroic recovery for it. With heroic recovery and with fix and beat, that's actually not too bad, right? That's actually not too bad. It's not going to be as tanky as a Maw-grunta, right? Because a Maw-grunta has 18 wounds and usually a 3-up save, but also has 8 bravery. But the Maw-grunta moves a lot more quickly. The Maw-grunta starts at 12-inch move instead of 9-inch move. Okay, that's cool. So it has 4 attack profiles, so that's awesome. It's the dude on top, the tusks from the actual monster itself, its hooves as it runs you over, and these little dudes in the side cart. So that's pretty cool. Another thing that's really interesting just at first glance of this Warscroll is that it doesn't have a damage table. So this model is not going to degrade as it takes damage. As it begins and as it ends, from its first wound to its last, it'll maintain the same profiles, and it'll only get better because it has what is referred to, or what is called here, a momentum table. So what does that mean? What does this momentum table mean? Well, let's just have a quick look at this. We'll stop at this. Well, we'll look at this unstoppable momentum. This unit has a momentum score that affects the value represented by a star for this unit as shown on the momentum table above. Okay, so we have a couple of stars. Yep. At the start of the battle, this unit has a momentum score of 1. Okay, it starts at 1. Each time this unit finishes a run or charge, add D3 to its momentum score. So we're looking at an average of 2. This unit's momentum score can never exceed 6. At the end of each turn, subtract 1 from this unit's momentum score to a minimum of 1. Okay, so its momentum goes from 1 to 6. It can be no lower than 1 and no greater than 6. Whenever it runs or whenever it charges, you add D3 to its momentum. Okay, so when it has a momentum score of 1, so at the very start of the game, it has a move of 9. This Kill Choppa has a rend of 1, and the Mighty Tusks have a damage of D3. Cool. So as it runs, as it charges, it's going to build up these points, and what you're hoping for is that after a charge and like when it really gets into a fight, like once it really starts to fighting, that it's going to have about 4 momentum. 4 momentum is where you really want to get to. It's going to increase the rend of this Kill Choppa's attack to -2. So that +1 rend is significant, and that's pretty cool. So let's just read the rest of its Warscroll, and then we're going to look at each of its attacks. And so its mount, right? This unit's Maw-grunta is armed with Mighty Tusks and Trampling Trotters. Okay. Crew, this unit's Hacking Crew is armed with Kill Choppas. Awesome. Head of the Stampede. If this unit makes a charge move, you can re-roll charge rolls for all friendly Maw-grunta units on the battlefield until the end of the phase. So if this unit makes a charge move, all your Maw-gruntas on the table, it doesn't matter where, get to re-roll their charge moves. So, I mean, yeah, let's keep reading. So Headlong Charger. While this unit has a momentum score of 4 or more, this unit can charge even if it ran earlier in the turn. So that's kind of the idea with getting to 4, right? Not only are we going to get that rend up, and it's going to improve the damage and everything else, but it's also going to mean that this unit can run and charge. So to me, what that really means is that after this unit, if like this unit, charges into something and is able to get its momentum score up and it kills the thing that it charges, it means that hopefully, if you're lucky with your dice rolls, on the next turn, this bad boy is going to be able to like turn, look at something else, run, and charge to get into the next fight. So that it's a little bit of mobility, and that's pretty cool. So it also has its own Monstrous Rampage. You can carry out the Carve a Path Monstrous Rampage below with this unit instead of any other Monstrous Rampage you carry out with this unit. Cool. Monstrous Rampage, Carve a Path. Pick an enemy unit with a wounds characteristic of 4 or less within 3 inches of this unit and roll a dice. If the roll is less than this unit's momentum score, that enemy unit suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the roll, and you can immediately attempt a charge with this unit. When a unit charges in this manner, it can pass across enemy units with a wound characteristic of 1 or 2 in the same manner as a unit that can fly. So this means that if you're able to get your momentum up, you can charge in, use your Monstrous Rampage to jump over cheap screens, or even just like regular kind of battle line units, right? Lots of armies have battle line units with wounds of 2, and you can get into the squishy little foot heroes, the wizards that are in the back line. It's a mobility Monstrous Rampage. It's going to deal a few mortal wounds, which is nice, but really the thing that you're doing is one of 2 things primarily. One, you're getting behind a unit that you're trying to fight, which allows other models like other Maw-gruntas or Gorgruntas to come in and get more surface area on which to fight. And 2, you're going to be able to pick off those little foot heroes, or both. You know, like these attack profiles are pretty good, and you should be able to split up, you know, like different attacks, put different attacks in different places, and you should be able to actually kill stuff. So let's look at it. Pig Hackers. Okay, 1-inch range, 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, 2 damage. Awesome. That's fine. You know, 6 dice. It only has 1 rend, but you know, like that's a fine attack. That's a fine profile. Mighty Tusks, 2-inch range, 2 attacks, 3s and 3s with 3 rend, and the damage starts at D3. Awesome. Right, that's good. 3 rend. You know, there's only 2 dice, right? But that's a totally fine profile. Trampling Trotters, 1-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, and D3 damage. Okay. You know, like 1 rend isn't fantastic, but this is looking pretty good still. And Kill Choppas, 2-inch range, 2 attacks, 3s and 3s. The star is 1 rend and 2 damage. So this thing, at its where it begins. Here, I'll show you on this. I sort of made some tables of. So this top table here, this is the Tusk boss, and this is its average damage. So against a 4-up save, you're looking at, you know, about 9 damage, and against worse saves, you know, you can go up to like 12.44 damage. So it's quite a bit of damage. It's not Mega Boss with Destroyer type damage, but I don't think that's the role that this Tusk boss is playing in this army. I don't think that the Tusk boss is going to be that big heavy punch that a Mega Boss on Maw-grunta is, right? It's not taking that role. It's more of a secondary role. Cool. So the Tusk boss, what is the Tusk boss bringing that's unique to it? Because if we scroll through and we look at the other, you know, if we look at the Hack and Crew, it has a lot of the same attacks, and it has very similar monstrous rampages. So there's a couple things that the Tusk boss is bringing that's unique to it. The first thing is the ability Head of the Stampede. So how impactful is Head of the Stampede? If this unit makes a charge move, all your other Maw-gruntas can make a charge move. Well, or they can re-roll their charges. To be honest, I don't think it's that impactful. I think that if you're running a list that's really heavy on the Maw-gruntas, right? Like you're running a lot of Maw-gruntas, because if your Tusk boss is a general, it means that you can run Tusk, or you can run, Maw-grunta Gougers. You can run them as battle line. So if you're running a lot of Maw-grunta Gougers, then this ability becomes good. But I think the real thing that it brings is the fact that it unlocks Maw-gruntas as battle line. I'm sure that you've all seen, and I'll be covering this in a future video, but the Ard Boys got a full change. They're no longer a cheap 80-point screen battle line option. Now they're 220 points, and they come in units of 10. Cool. So that means that in Big Wa, in particular, that you're going to be looking for other battle line options. You know, because now it's like, well, what are you looking at? In Orcs now, you know, you're looking at, you know, Got Rippas for 150 points. You know, not a big fan. Brutes now are 140 points for 5, so Brutes are now your cheapest battle line option. And Savage Orcs, but who wants to bring Savage Orcs? You know, 160 points. You know, like not a lot of synergy in Big Wa. So the Big Wa lists are going to be mixed up a lot. And to be honest, I think that Tusk boss might actually find his home in Big Wa. I think that potentially unlocking a, you know, if you're running one of these bosses and then you run 2 single Maw-grunta Gougers to help fill up those battle line slots, that might be a thing. I know that, and like I said this before, but we're still missing some rules, so there's going to be an army of renown, just like we talked about with the, what's his name? Trug, the Trog. right? He has like an army of renown where if everything sort of fits this, like a you know, like if everything is a trog, then you get special rules and you get special stuff. So there's going to be one of those, and I mean it's going to be the Tusk. It's going to be Maw-gruntas, right? That's kind of what they're setting up here. So, yeah, and then the monstrous rampage is good. You know, it's good. I don't know how good it is. I think it'll be. It's obviously nice to have. I think it'll be situationally good. What it does do that is that it doesn't say this explicitly is that you can. So you can charge him in the charge phase, and then if you use this monstrous action, you can, it also counts as a charge, so you're rolling more dice to add to your momentum table. So let's say that you're playing you're playing Iron Jaws and you're trying to alpha strike this unit, you know, that will be his second charge. So you're hoping for a good roll, you know, it starts at 1, and if you on average you'll get 2. And then you still have to roll under the, you have to roll under your momentum. It's under 2, isn't it? If the roll is less than this unit's momentum score. So it's not less than or equal to. So it means if you get an average, if you do 1 charge and you get an average roll, you have to roll a 1 or a 2. I would stomp. Right? I would stomp in that case. Unfortunately, I don't think that Mighty Destroyers helps this at all, right? Because if you're actually, you know what? Mighty Destroyers does help. So if you can Mighty Destroyer charge, in the movement phase you can retreat, and then in the charge phase you can charge again. So there is a little bit of play there. And so now you're adding, hopefully, now your momentum score is hopefully going to be 5, right? Because you're getting D3 plus 1. So it's hopefully going to be 5 on average, and now rolling you know, a 1 through 4 is easier, and so that would be your 3rd charge in the turn. So that's a little bit of a trick, you know. Mighty Destroyers charge, retreat, charge again. No, sorry, because you can't retreat and then charge. Never mind, ignore me. So there is no play with Mighty Destroyers. There's nothing that you can do with Mighty Destroyers that's going to help. I mean, obviously, Mighty Destroyers can help you get closer so that you can then charge. But in the Iron Jaws book, there's nothing that allows you to run and charge. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Spoiler, rabble rouser. Cool. So overall, I mean, I think we'll have to see what his enhancements are. I think they're going to be good. I think that if there's any kind of good... if you want to take the Maw-grunta Gougers as battle line option, I think that he'd be a good choice. I think that him unlocking that battle line is going to be good. In Big Wa, I think in Iron Jaws, I think you're still just going to take Bloodtooth. So you're just going to have a bunch of pigs. I think in... yeah, let's talk about the next one. So here's the Maw-grunta with Hacking Crew. So the attack profile is exactly the same, except this... the name of this, the Gouger, Choppa, and X, is changed. Before it said the Pig Hacka, but it's 6 attacks, 3-3-1-2, and then here you have 4 attacks at 3-3-1-2. So you're losing 2 attacks. That's what you're losing, is 2 attacks. The rest of the profile is the same. If we look, everything else is the same too. I know you probably can't see this zoomed out, but it has 14 wounds. It has 1 less bravery, but that's okay because it's not a hero, so we can't heroic recovery it. It actually has 1 worse of a save. It has a 4-up save instead of a 3-up save. That's significant. And everything else about it is the same. But let's just have another look here. It is elite, so this one can issue commands to itself. It is everything else about it is the same. Everything else about it is the same. So what's the trade here? Okay, so we're losing 2 attacks. Those 2 attacks translate into slightly reduced damage. So here, So here you can see that against a 4-up save, we're looking at 8.89 damage, and against a 4-up save for the, not the Gougers, the Hacking Crew, it's at 7.7 damage. So we're losing like a damage and a touch because we're losing 2 attacks. So we're losing a damage and a touch. At the high end, we're losing like almost 2 damage. So it's not nothing. It's not nothing, but it's not super impactful. The thing that is way more impactful is this -1 to save, right? That's what we're really losing. We're losing a little bit of damage. We're not unlocking Maw-grunta Gougers as battle line. We're losing a save. And we are, you know, if we successfully charge, we're not re-rolling charges for the army. But again, that's pretty low impact. So what are we gaining? Well, instead of 380 points, it's 270 points. It's 110 points cheaper. It is a, I mean, what is it? It's an Ardboy Big Boss difference. 100 points, or 110 points, is almost a Maw-grunta. Sorry, pardon me. 110 points is almost a War Chanter. So it's like, if you don't care about unlocking the battle line options, if you're not running a ton of Maw-gruntas, because if you don't care about the battle line options, you're not running a ton of Maw-gruntas, this is, I think, a better deal. You know, I think it's a better deal. I think if you're going to run a whole bunch of Maw-gruntas as battle line, I think that the Tusk boss is probably better, but without it, I mean, it's you know, it can issue its own commands, which means it has that in common. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. How do I feel about this? I think that you could downgrade the Tusk boss to a hack and crew for points. If you are building a list and you're trying to squeeze a little bit of extra value in, 110 points is not trivial, and you could fit one of these guys in there instead of the Tusk boss instead. But yeah, that save kind of hurts. You know, losing that save kind of hurts. So let's look at the last one. Maw-grunta Gougers. So again, now we're sort of taking a hit even more here. We're going down 2 wounds. We're still at that 4-up save, right? Which kind of hurts a little bit, right? It's not fantastic. And we lose even more attacks, because if you look at this model here, there's no dudes on the side cart. So if we go back and look at the slideshow here, right? So against a 4-up save, the Tusk boss is doing 8.89 damage, and on a 4-up save, we're down to 6.52 damage. So we're, you know, at like, you know, 2.5, 2 and change damage difference, which is starting to become significant, right? The Tusk boss caps out at like 12.44. The Hack and Crew is at 10.67, and the Maw-grunta Gougers are at 8.89 damage at their high end. So, you know, we are going to lose a non-trivial amount of damage as we go down this ladder, but the Maw-grunta Gougers is only 180 points. It's only 180 points. You can take 2 Maw-grunta Gougers for 20 points cheaper. Oh my god, am I going to do math in a video? You can do it for you can do 2 Maw-grunta Gougers for 20 points cheaper than a Tusk boss. Right? So, you know, if you want the Tusk boss to be the general of your army so that you can unlock the Maw-grunta Gougers as battle line, then it has value and it's worth it. But if not, if you're like, well, I don't care. Like if you're playing, for example, Ironjaws, and you're like, well, I'm going to play Bloodtooth because I don't see a reason to not play Bloodtooth still, and I want to bring some Maw-gruntas. It's like, well, you know, like, why don't you go for some Maw-gruntas just as the Gougers, you know, because they're going to have a lot of the similar stuff, you know, yeah. But let's look at this. Let's look at this Warscroll here. So, again, so the momentum table is very similar. It loses like a good attack, so like the damage is going to go down. Like you will notice a difference in damage, but 2 Maw-grunta Gougers are going to out-damage a Tusk boss, and they're 20 points cheaper. So if you're just looking for raw damage, you know, Maw-grunta Gougers are more damage. And if they're right, if you just bring 2 of them, they don't have to be in, like, you know, they don't have to be a battle line, they don't have to be in the same unit, but you could just always bring 2. So Monstrous Regiment, only 1 model in this unit can carry out a monstrous rampage each turn. Again, if they're battle line, you can double and triple, or you can single and double reinforce them. So you can have a unit of 3 of these bad boys. A unit of 3 monsters, that, like, You know, like, that's just fun. You know, this army of renown is going to be like a Tusk boss as the general, and if your whole army has the Maw-grunta keyword, I mean, that would be my prediction, right? The whole army is going to be Maw-gruntas because they're just going to sell you a ton of these models. Unfortunately, right, like, it is a company that's trying to make a profit first, and they're trying to design the best game they can second. So they'll just sell you 1 million of these models, right? That's kind of the idea as far as I can tell, right? They're just going to sell you 1 million of these models. So that's it, right? That's how it is. It has the same unstoppable momentum thing. It has the same headlong charge, but it has a different monstrous rampage. Flattened into the mud. Only a model in this unit that has made a charge move this turn can carry out this monstrous rampage. So you can only carry it out the turn that you charge in. And if you're getting charged, it's not gonna, you're not gonna be able to use this monstrous rampage. But we're in Iron Jaws. With Iron Jaws, it's not hard with Mighty Destroyers and all these other tricks to get into range and charge, right? This thing can't issue its own commands to itself, so you can't do tricks like teleport it, Mighty Destroyers, 3-inch charge. You can't do stuff like that. But so that's a big drawback. Pick a model with a wounds characteristic of 1 or 2 within 3 inches of this unit and roll the die. If the roll is less than the unit's momentum score, the strike last effect applies to the enemy unit until the end of the turn. So it can only be for units that have a wounds of 1 or 2, and then you have to roll under your momentum score. So again, you're hoping that momentum score is high. But if you're stuck in combat and you're not running and you're not charging, it's going to go down. So not that you can use this, the second turn of the second round of combat that it's stuck in, right? So, but the strike last effect is a powerful effect. It's a powerful effect. It's a very powerful effect when you also think about smashing and bashing, right? It means that, like, you're going to get to, like, chain hopefully some Iron Jaw units, and then even after your chain expires, and your opponent gets to finally slap back, that this thing is still sitting with an enemy that has strike last. So, it can sort of sit there and it'll still get to hit first. So that, it's a pretty good ability. You have to kind of pick and choose, I think, where this thing goes more so than the other ones. But, I mean, it's a 180 point monster. It's a 180 point monster. Who cares about this monstrous rampage? If it works out, that's fantastic. If you have the momentum, great, use it. Like give it this strike last effect. But you can always stomp. You can always roar. Those are very good monstrous actions. So, I don't know. I kind of feel like the Hacken crew is the weakest of the 3. And the reason I think that is because he's not opening up battle line options. He's not taking enhancements, right? Like, I bet you that the Tusk boss has a good command trait. I bet you that there's at least one good command trait. And so it's like, okay, in an Iron Jaws army, let's say that you really wanted to take a bunch of Maw-gruntas in, like, an orc army, right? It's like, okay, I take the Tusk boss and I give him a good enhancement, and then I take Destroyer for an artifact of power, and I give it to a Maw-crusher or a Mega Boss on foot. It's like, great. Is that better than a Weird Knob Shaman with Master of Magic in a Primal Dice season? I doubt it. I bet you that the Tusk boss has a better command trait than Master of Magic, So he doesn't, the Hacken crew does not bring the utility of a hero. He can't issue commands, can't take heroic actions. He's not unlocking battle line options. He's not giving reroll charges to other Maw-gruntas, but he's still 90 more points. He's still 90 more points. 90 points is a lot of points. I don't know if it's better to bring a 180 point monster and a really good endless spell, or to bring this guy. I don't think so. I think he's probably the weakest because he's stuck in the middle. the really big advantage of the Gougers is that they can be battle line. They can be reinforced. You can reinforce it even if he's not in battle line. You just can't have him in. You just can't double reinforce him. So you can have 2 in a unit, right? And his monstrous action is still really good. In fact, it might be better. Okay. So what kind of combos can we combo with these units? I think, don't get me wrong, I think that they're all good. I think that we'll see some play testing and we'll see what's up. But I think that they'll all be good. So what combos can we run with this? Well, we can run Rabble Rouser. Rabble Rouser, I'm not sure if you've seen, is a Gloomspike Gits unit. And Rabble Rouser has this really cool ability where essentially he gets to pick a monster at the beginning of the move phase, I believe. Let me just pull it up and make sure that I am doing it properly. So the ability is called Get Goin' Ya Gits. While any friendly unit with this ability is on the battlefield, when you pick a friendly, so it's not Gloomspike Gits, it's a friendly monster to move in the movement phase, you can say that it is goaded until the end of the turn. While the friendly monster is goaded, it can run and still charge later in the turn. However, a goaded unit must finish any kind of move, except for a pile-in move, closer to a unit with this ability than it was at the start of the move. In addition, each time a goaded unit finishes a move, each friendly unit with this ability within 3 inches of that unit suffers D6 mortal wounds. Okay, so basically it means that like the Rabble Rouser picks a friendly monster. That friendly monster can run and charge, but it has to end closer to Rabble Rouser than it did at the start of the turn. Cool. And if the monster ends up close to Rabble Rouser, then Rabble Rouser like gets squashed. That's the idea. So it doesn't have to like move in a straight line towards Rabble Rouser. It just has to end closer. So, if you, it doesn't even say at the beginning of the movement phase. It just says when you pick a friendly monster to move in the movement phase. So let's say that your Rabble Rouser and your Tusk boss are standing right next to each other. Well, obviously, you run the Rabble Rouser up, right? He moves 5 inches, and then he's going to run, let's say. So he's going to move up. So let's say that you get a minimum roll of 1, and it's 6 inches. Now Rabble Rouser is 6 inches further ahead of the Tusk boss. That means the Tusk boss all that he has to do is end 5.9 inches away. He has to end his run 5.9 inches away. So essentially, that's 12 inches. Well, it has a 9-inch move, so you can move this guy 9 or almost 12 inches up the board and charge. Right? You can move this guy 12 inches up the board and then charge. You can also do, instead of where they're standing right next to each other, you can put Rabble Rouser way off onto the side so he's nowhere even close to combat. And then it's a little bit even easier because if you just shift your model a little bit towards Rabble Rouser way off in the corner, you're probably going to end closer. Like you can just think about the geometry. It's one thing to move Rabble Rouser up the field and then slingshot him past, but if your Rabble Rouser is way off to the right or way off to the left, the pig only really has to move slightly in that direction to end up closer. So now, you can have like, if your Rabble Rouser's way off on the left and your Tusk boss or whatever it is, whatever Maw-grunta model of your choice, as long as you're moving sort of slightly in that direction, then you'll end up closer. So it's pretty easy to make this work. If you run and then you charge, you're looking at an average momentum score of 5. You could easily make that 6. And then all of a sudden, the monstrous action Carve a Path is going to put you into that top bracket of the momentum score. It's going to put you into the top bracket of the momentum score. And then once you're in the top bracket of the momentum score, then this Headlong Charger ability that all 3 of them have, Headlong Charger, Headlong Charger, Headlong Charger, is almost guaranteed if you need to use it again. If you kill the unit, like if you send the Maw-grunta off to smash something on an objective and it does that, right? And it wipes it out. While the next turn, you're probably going to be high, like high enough in your momentum score to turn, run, roll, add more momentum, charge, add more momentum, and be back at that top bracket for the next target that you're charging into, right? Like, are there any other ways to give an Ironjawz unit run and charge? Not that I can think of. Like, I thought about it this afternoon. I read this unstoppable momentum thing. I read this and I'm like, okay, so it just needs to run and charge. It just needs to run and charge. How do we make it run and charge? Rabble Rouser. That's how. So hopefully you bought that box. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be good. Okay, so Ironjawz, I think, are going to like the Gouger the best. I think that you could probably just play this guy in... I think that a list is going to look something like one Maw-grunta, one Maw-grunta, a bunch of pigs, and some support, some war chanters. I think a list would look like that. After, like a week or two of mulling through this, and after we get the Dawnbringer book, I'll actually put a bunch of lists together, and we can have a look and see what's up. In Big Wa, I think the Tusk boss might find a home. I think that you would just... I think the Tusk boss might replace a Maw-grunta in this list, maybe. I think that unlocking more Maw-gruntas as battle line options is interesting. The thing about this unit in Big Wa is that it doesn't have to charge first turn. It doesn't have to move and charge on the first turn. It doesn't, right? You can wait until you build up those wall points, because you can't get lower than one point. And if you're gonna keep the Maw-grunta in the back, right? Because that's kind of how, I mean, replacing them, like you would have to replace. So a Maw-grunta is 450 points. So a Maw-grunta is 380 points, which leaves you about 70 points. The thing that you're really losing with the Maw-grunta, besides like the huge amount of damage, is the triple commands. So I don't know. We'll have to play around with it. But a Tusk boss as the general, with a Mega Boss having Destroyer still, it's suddenly you can open up a couple of battle line options, right? So maybe you'll end up replacing, like a unit of Gorgruntas with one of these Maw-grunta Gougers, because like they're similarly costed, but it's going to take up a battle line option. And with Ardboys going from 80, going from 80 to 220 points. 220 points. Are you going to have 660 points worth of battle line options in Big Wa, where before you had 240? Like, it's rough. That's a rough... Like, you're not going to do that, right? It's like, okay, so I have a unit of Ardboys, I have a unit of Brutes, and then I have a Maw-grunta Gouger. That seems fine to me. You need more bodies? Stabas. Snarl Fangs. You're right. Like, there's other options. Big Wa has so many different options that... But 220 points for an Ardboy unit, like, it's a lot for Big Wa. Big Wa is gonna get shook up something fierce. Over the next, once we get the rest of these rules or whatever, it's gonna shake it up something crazy, for sure. So, Big Wa could see Tusk boss, and as an ally in Gloomspite Gitz, I don't know. I mean, Gitz has a hard time with monsters, so I could see maybe like a Maw-grunta Gouger as an ally. You're not going to take the other ones, I don't think. But like just all by itself. But yeah, like in Big Wa, if you have some of these big pigs in the background, they can kind of run in circles. Like, I know it sounds silly, right? But like sometimes with my Maw-grunta, like he would just sort of like reposition up the board a little bit, stay within 18 of a bunch of different units, so I can hand out all these, all these commands or whatever. So why can't the Maw-grunta, or why can't the Maw-grunta just like, move an inch over but run? Like, why not? Right, you'll hopefully, if you roll a 1 on the momentum at a 3, then you're no worse off. But if you roll a 3, all of a sudden it's like, okay, right now I'm at 4 momentum, and then it's going to go down to 3. So you can almost like the big pigs can like run in circles in the back line to build up momentum, and then once you have that +1 to hit, +1 to wound, right, +1 to run, +1 to charge, once you have all these big wob buffs, then you can just send the Maw-grunta into combat with its momentum already sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, like cooked. It's sat in the back cooking up its momentum, and then when the time is right, you unleash it into your opponent. And you can take a Rabble-Rouser in Big Wa as well, right? So, please let me know in the comments below if you're going to try Rabble-Rouser with this unit, and if you do, how it goes. I think it's an Alpha Strike strategy. You know, it's like you deploy that Rabble-Rouser, you run him up the board. If you auto-run him 6, it's 11 inches, right? So that's 22. You know, it's a lot of inches for this for this unit. So you'll be able to like swing him in and run and then charge, and with that your momentum's up high. You can use the monstrous action. Like think about that for a sec. In Iron Jaws, in Big Wa, if wherever you're gonna run this, if you play with a Rabble-Rouser on turn 1, if you have the let's say the Carve a Path monstrous action, you'll charge twice and run in the same turn. So already, you know, you only need 5. You need 3d3 to get 5 momentum to be at your top bracket, and you can skip over some battle line units and get into their soft, squishy backline stuff before the end of turn 1. Before the end of turn 1. I think you can unleash hell off Carve a Path though, because it is in the charge phase. You'll have to let me know in the comments below. Can you unleash hell off Carve a Path? I think probably yes. But still, right? Like you're gonna get in there. So, you know, Mighty Destroyers, move, run, charge, monster, Carve a Path. You know, like you're getting where you want to get. Those little Andorian locusts better watch out, because Big Pig is coming for them. Like, subscribe, wah.